Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. Welcome back. We have a great stream planned ahead. A criminal referral coming over from Congress to Pam Bondi at the DOJ. And who is it for? None other than John Brennan. So quick preview on what is coming up. Then we'll zoom in for further detail. But here's what Jim Jordan posted today. We'll read through the full thing here. You can see straight out of the Committee on the Judiciary from Congress. Jim Jordan is the chairman over there. And he is now telling Pam that Brennan is a liar. And we already knew this. This, of course, John Brennan. And you remember what this dude looked like. This is one of his clips where he's communicating mistruths, untruths through his mouth. But we have backing and support for the claims that this dude is a liar, because we've talked a lot about him. We'll refresh our recollection with what Tulsi Gabbard posted earlier this year, and also look at the CIA's own assessment just to confirm everything that Jim Jordan is saying, all coming up. And we'll also hear from Brennan and his lies straight out of his mouth when he was testifying with Trey Gowdy. So all that coming up. We're excited to see some developments in this arena. And maybe Congress and their enthusiastic endorsement of criminal charges will be persuasive to Pam Bondi, and they'll look for their own evidence and bring charges. Now, we also have a Jack Smith update, because Jack Smith, as we'll see in this story, got spied on. Ted Cruz got spied on by Jack Smith. And this is a new one. We know Jack Smith was looking through everybody else's phones, but now Ted Cruz got brought into the fray, and we don't know what he was talking about, but Jack does. And so we'll go through what the latest reveal is. Jack's attorneys have responded to this, so they sent a letter back over to Chuck Grassley. We remember that Chuck Grassley had sent a letter to basically everybody saying, hey, Jack and AT&T and everybody, why were you spying on sitting senators and their cell phones? And so Jack Smith's attorneys have responded. You can see here, lots of footnotes, mostly footnotes, but they did. Look at that. That's a full page right there. You imagine you turn that in to your English teacher or your law professor. You're like, yeah, here's my essay. You're like, it's all URLs. What the hell are you doing? F, get out, you fail. Haven't even read it. All right, so we got that. Remember, there was also a whistleblower back in 2013 who sent a letter in saying that Jack Smith is used to tapping people. This came out from John F. Moynihan back in 2023. And he is explaining that, yeah, Jack Smith did all this stuff when he was over in Europe working for The Hague or wherever he was. So we'll go through that, see what the latest is. Marsha Blackburn commenting on this, and a shout out to our friend Julie Kelly with a good observation on this matter. So all that's coming up. Then we'll turn our attention to this judge, Jeffrey Cummings, a Biden judge over in Chicago, Northern District of Illinois, to be more specific. And he issued an order earlier this week last week rather, that is now being imposed. Okay, so now we're talking about ICE being prohibited from conducting arrests in this district. And it's a kind of a strange case, so I wanted to go through it because it's an old case. You can see this is the docket, goes all the way back to 2018 during Trump's first term. And it's all about a settlement agreement. But as it stands, there's 22, I think the number was, we'll get into it, 22 or so people that ICE is going to kind of have to unarrest based on what this judge is saying. So we'll get into this as well. It's out of Illinois. There's a lot cooking. We got Amy Coney Barrett in the Supreme Court getting ready to weigh in on a lot of presidential powers as it relates to immigration. And so we'll hit some of the highlights on this. Homeland is posting some banger videos over here. You can see that was the FAFO guy. And so this is in response to this guy who was out over the weekend saying we have to literally shoot these people, okay, because that's their ideology, which is violent, revolutionary communism. So we got Johnson out here and more. There was a shooting or something that took place today. Fox News was reporting on that. And so we'll hit some of the highlights of what the latest is in the immigration arena. But it is a beautiful day, my friends. And we're very glad that you're here and with us. Hopefully your week is unfolding amazingly and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. Before we jump into anything, let's take a look at our friends over at Perplexity and what they're up to. Because you've heard of this new browser, Comet. It's actually everywhere. A lot of people are talking about it. I heard even Joe Rogan have them as a sponsor. Because it's cool. It's cool software and it's a very cool browser. Link is in the description below. But let me show you how it works. It's Comet. And when you click this little button up here and you click this assistant button, you can see, let me just pull this down here. See, assistant button comes right out and pops onto your screen so you can just communicate with your AI tool, Perplexity. And here you can see we've got Instacart opened up. It's Taco Tuesday, and we're talking immigration today. So I put in a prompt here. I said, it's Taco Tuesday. Okay, Perplexity, help me out. Please add everything I need for delicious beef tacos to my Instacart. And I just press enter, and I just don't touch anything. And here, let me get rid of this little prompt here for us. But you can see it's working, adding all the ingredients. Ground beef, baby, perfect. So it's going to look that up. It's going to add it to the cart. This is just a super basic example, but this can, draft replies. It can sort emails. It can do all sorts of stuff right from your browser. Don't need any special tools. And it just starts looking stuff up and adding it to your cart. So you can check it out. It's free. Links in the description below. And if you sign up using our link, you get a free month of Rumble Premium if you're watching over there. And it's cool. It's just still going, and it will continue to do its thing. So it's looking for taco seasoning. All right, so we're adding some of that. Look, 4 things already added. It looks like it's doing some of this in the background too. All right, so flour tortillas, all sorts of stuff, and it's a cool app. Check it out. Links in the description below, and we appreciate them sponsoring today's episode. All right, so chicken tacos yesterday too. We're celebrating Taco Tuesday because the deportations are continuing, and so we want to honor the meal, clearly. All right, let's get into it. So we've got some business on the day. And we're starting with a criminal referral for this guy right here. John Brennan, ex-CIA director under Obama, now in trouble courtesy of Congress. He's already been in trouble, of course, been on everybody's radar for a long time. But now Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, is sending over a full referral to Attorney General Pam Bondi, saying, all right, Bondi, this guy's bad news, and here's why. And he's going to give us a little bit of excerpts from the transcripts, talking with Gates and talking with others, and we'll go through that, but we'll also back this up with some ultimate documentation about Brennan's lies, because they are numerous, and they have resurfaced in recent months. We got Tulsi Gabbard and others who are reminding us just how far this dude has fallen from serving America. But here's where it started. Representative Jim Jordan came out. He says, John Brennan lied to Congress. Today, we referred him to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution, and we'll read through the full thing here together. And here's how it starts. It says, all right, Pam Bondi, from the Committee on the Judiciary, drafted October 21st, we now write to you. Here's why. We write to refer significant evidence that former director of the CIA, John Brennan, knowingly made false statements during his transcribed interview before the committee on May 11, 2023. Footnote 1. So he lied to Congress internally to the committee during a transcribed interview. So not actually, they're saying, lies to Congress in open session, although we have a clip of that with Trey Gowdy coming up. Now, while testifying, John Brennan, ex-CIA director, he made numerous willfully and intentionally false statements of material fact, contradicted by the record that was established by the CIA, which we'll look at their documents, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Writing, under 18 U.S. Code, Section 1001, a witness commits a crime if he knowingly and willfully makes any materially false statement or representation. And this is with respect to any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of any committee of Congress. Now, Congress cannot perform its oversight function if the people who come before it lie through their teeth to us. We need truthful testimony. Making false statements before Congress is a crime that undermines the integrity of the committee's constitutional duty to conduct oversight. Now, the points below, Pam, they support an investigation. You should open up a case file if you haven't already. Here's why. 1, Brennan falsely denied that the CIA relied on the discredited Steele dossier in drafting the post-election intelligence community assessment. And now might be a good time to just pause and refresh our recollection on exactly how this went down. Remember, this was an unclassified memo that now was released by Tulsi Gabbard, and it was assembling all of the documents that shows that John Brennan and the Obama cabal were trying to coup our country out of a legitimate election. And here's the timeline, just to be clear before we go into this in further detail, because the letter gives us a little bit, but there's a lot of depth here. Remember, August 31, 2016, before Trump obliterates Hillary, Homeland tells Clapper, who's Obama's DNI, the old Tulsi, he said there was no indication of a Russian threat. No indication at all. Month goes by, not even, a couple days. Then September 2nd, FBI, they said, was uncomfortable implying that there was definitive information that Russia does intend to disrupt our elections. They're like, we got to soften this up about Russian election. We have no evidence of any interference from them. They said that. Here's an excerpt from the communications that are being emailed back and forth to each other. Then September 9th, a couple days go by. ODNI and Presidential Daily Briefer, they say that an upcoming Obama brief should make clear that Russia, quote, is probably not trying to influence the election by using cyber means. Several intelligence community officials agree. They all write it, sending these memos back and forth. Hey, Russia is probably not going to be able to, question, influence the election by using cyber means. The lead author on the Presidential Daily Brief agrees. Hey, we agree. Russia is probably not and will not try to influence the election by using cyber means to manipulate the election infrastructure. Got it. This dude sends that email too. But something happened. Oh, yeah. This was when Hillary was going to crush Trump. Remember the New York Times had their stupid little speedometer? It's like 92% for Hillary. Oops. Oh, what a glorious night that was. Yes, if we're going further, Russia has some capability, but doesn't mean that they're going to change the outcome or do anything. So it's not conclusive and they don't support it. Then September 12th, they publish an ICA, and the report, this is before Obama ordered a new one, it says that foreign adversaries do not have and will probably not obtain the capabilities to execute widespread and undetected cyber attacks. Okay, they can't even do it if they wanted to. Then October 7th, ODNI and Homeland, they suppress that intelligence findings in their press release that states with confidence they know that they come out and they say the Russian hacked Hillary's emails. Okay, so they're starting to seed this. Now we've got two separate issues. Did the Russians hack Hillary's emails with WikiLeaks and all the things? Or did the Russians help rig the election? Now, there is still supporting evidence. They say their statement omitted the fact that the FBI and the NSA had low confidence in saying those came from Russia, but there still is supporting evidence that the Russian government did hack the DNC and the DCC. Like, that's probably true. But then Trump beats the pants off of Hillary Clinton, shocking the whole planet. And something changed. They lost everything. So what happened? A month goes by. December 7th, the IC is working on a new brief for Obama, examining the impacts of the election. So then Clapper, the old Tulsi, develops talking points based on those findings. They said this, quote, foreign adversaries did not use cyber attacks on election infrastructure to alter the election. We have no evidence of cyber manipulation of election infrastructure intended to alter the results. On 12/7. These are in the emails. Send these over. There's no evidence. The Russians didn't do anything. So then on December 8th, though, day goes by, IC officials discuss the draft, and it finds in the draft that the Russian and criminal actors did not impact recent elections by conducting any malicious cyber activities against infrastructure. They say, we're going to publish that over for Barry to read this. Then they're going to publish it the next day. So, well, let me think about this. They say, due to high administration interest, this piece is scheduled to run tomorrow. A few hours later, though, After initially co-authoring this, the FBI, led by James Comey, inexplicably withdraws from coordinating on the product and says, we're going to draft a dissent. The FBI says, no, we have to pull out. We don't agree with that, so don't release that assessment. So the assessment says Russians didn't do anything. It's about to go out. Comey comes back and says, well, maybe the Russians did do something. Later in the afternoon, they said, FBI will be drafting a dissent. Please remove our seal of annotations of co-authorship. Later that afternoon, a senior briefer then kills the brief based on, quote, some new guidance. The post-election brief, which once again said that Russia did not hack the election on basically the 12/7, 12/8 new brief, was never published because Comey got his fat, grubby fingers in there. Now, all based on new guidance, we're going to push this publication back next week because it would be devastating to our upcoming coup attempt, which was going to allege that the Russians stole it from Hillary. So they could either disqualify Trump and install Hillary or dog Trump the entire first term. So then, remember, we fast forward. They pull the brief on 12/8 and it doesn't go forward. We come back on 12/9. Then they all gather around for this little scam coup meeting. Obama White House gathers top cabinet officials, including Clapper, Brennan, Susan Rice, John Kerry, Brian McKeon, Loretta Lynch, Andrew McCabe, and Avril Haines, who all probably should be in jail. They talk about a sensitive topic. Look at all these people, all in the room, including John Brennan. Isn't that fun? Now here, after the meeting, in an email titled POTUS Tasking, then Clapper orders his assistant, because he doesn't want to send it from his email. He's like, oh, this is bad. We're trying to rig all of America right now. So he says, can you just send this email? She's like, sure, what is it? He's like, oh, nothing, just a routine memo. Committing treason, have fun. And so she sends an email to the ODNI leaders tasking them with creation of an assessment per the president's request. Okay, Obama orders it. Obama says, and so this is from the assistant, from Clapper's assistant, because he's too much of a coward to send it himself. He says, pursuant to the meeting, can you do this and do this? And she sends it out. And the assessment is going to address the following questions. How did Moscow rig the election? How many votes did they give to Hillary? Why did they steal this for President Trump? It's all just made up crap. So the same day, because they changed it immediately, they had all of the data. Then what came out? What changed all of this? All of a sudden. Same day, and we're going to find out what it is. The deep state officials in the intelligence community began blatantly leaking false intelligence to the Washington Post. And Comey and many others were doing the leaking, as proven by the unpublished Daily Brief and others. And they said Russia was interfering. Later that evening, another leak to the Washington Post also alleged falsely that the CIA concluded that the Russians intervened to help Trump. All traitors, man, for rigging this. They concluded in a secret assessment, the CIA, that Russia intervened to help Trump. Lied to everybody. The IC officials again leaked to the media, this time claiming that officials believe with a high level of confidence that Vladimir Putin was personally involved, right? So the story just goes deeper and deeper. Then, though Obama admits in December, well, there's no evidence of the machines being tampered with. He says, I'm concerned about potential hacks and it could hamper vote counting and the actual election process in December after the election. Then a whistleblower comes out, questions the leadership. Well, how come you just created a new book report that is the opposite of all of your prior book reports? The whistleblower is immediately removed from the emails. One dude calls him out. He's like, this is ridiculous. You just changed your story 180 degrees because your candidate lost? Yeah, right. Yeah, it was all above board. As long as you won, then it's rigged, and then you lose, and now it's Russian rigging. The National Intelligence Officer for Cyber pressures the whistleblower to accept the findings. You better accept this. Then the whistleblower will say, you need to trust me on this. And we read through these transcripts in details, and you're not allowed to see it. And remember, they were compartmentalizing everything. So one person would write this paragraph and this page. Some other person would write this paragraph and this page. Then they'd give those to a third person. The third person would also write something, and they'd say, well, what are those based on? And they say, oh, you don't need to know that, but it exists. Well, what is the thing? Let's find out. The Obama administration then shares the unclassified memo, which is fake, on January 6th, the real insurrection that was attempted by these cousters. It falsely alleges that based on further information that had, quote, come to light right out of Brennan's booty since the election, is that Putin directed an effort to help Trump defeat Hillary, which was never in evidence at all, even in their little annexed reports. The assessment also suppresses intelligence from before and after the election, showing that Russia lacked the intent and the capability to even do it. They deceived the American public by claiming the IC did not assess the impact of Russian activities, which was none. The unpublished PDB, Daily Brief, it stated clearly that there was no impact. That's why they said we did not do an assessment of the impact. Oh, if Russia interfered, how many votes? Well, we didn't look into that. Well, why not? Because you know the answer is zero. They also assessed that Russia was responsible for leaking data. That was low confidence. Now, put all that on pause. That all happened. Then 3 years later, fast forward, 3 years later, September 18th, 2019, the ODNI whistleblower assists in a FOIA request related to the Obama ICA. That's the 2017 new fake report. Specifically, the intelligence community official asks the whistleblower to search for material related to what? The Steele dossier. That's the fake Hillary Clinton campaign propaganda that was made up by Christopher Steele and then shoveled to the media by guys like Mark Elias and Michael Sussman, who were working for Perkins Coie at the time via Fusion GPS. They got the report, and then Sussman went over to the FBI and tried to feed it to them, while saying to the media, the FBI is looking into this. Media, you should write about it, because they're just scammers, in my opinion. Says they were asking about this. Wait a minute. The Steele dossier, that fake propaganda piece that was generated by Hillary, that was a factor? Wait a minute. It was or was not? Wait, it was. Oh. This revelation shocks the whistleblower. They said, what? It was? Who had been told by Clapper that no, he viewed the Steele dossier as untrustworthy. So what happened with that document? Oh, yes. Remember this email. Shelby believes this should be responded to by the NIC as the dossier was a factor in the 2017 ICA on the election interference, in which an assessment of the document was added as an annex. Remember? The classified annex. So it existed as part of it, and it was relied upon by all of the other people to come to their fake conclusions based on a summary of the Hillary Clinton campaign propaganda. It's like the game of telephone, right? You see the kids play it. By the time it goes from one person to the other person, somebody's committed a felony. You know the game. And now they're getting called out on it. And when Brennan was asked about it, and all this is documented, these are emails and internal messages, they recall learning, yep, the Steele dossier was shoved in this because they needed something. They have no evidence. So they went and got the best thing they had, which was Hillary Clinton campaign propaganda, and just buried that, and then referenced the study and it's all compartmentalized. Then the reports come out. It's not in there specifically, but it led to their conclusions that they can't talk about because it's all classified. It's a total scam. So now they're getting busted. It's in their emails. They knew it was completely untrustworthy. And this is why Brennan is getting a criminal referral. Okay. He was all involved in this, asked about this, and he lied through his teeth about it. They write, on January 6, 2017, the CIA, the FBI, National Security Agency, they published a declassified version of an ICA. It said, the ICA stated, among other things, that Russia developed a clear preference for Trump and aspired to help him win the election. It's like all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. It's the same lawyer language that's being used against us by our hack CIA so-called leaders. The conclusion, now known to be false, was based in part on the Steele dossier, which was referenced in the intelligence community assessment main body text and further detailed in a 2-page classified annex. The Steele dossier was a series of reports containing baseless accusations about Trump's ties to Russia. It was compiled and delivered by a former British intelligence agent called Christopher Steele. Subsequent investigations confirmed that the Clinton campaign and the DNC, the Democrats, they paid Steele via the law firm Perkins Coie, which is where Mark Elias was working, and that's why he got hauled in to testify in the Michael Sussman trial, and then suddenly forgot everything. Mark Elias, very smart guy. I can't recall. I don't remember. Oh, it's a good question. You know, it was a long time ago. Okay. An opposition research firm, Fusion GPS, they drafted and made up fake derogatory information about Trump's purported ties to Russia, and they published this discredited dossier that they shared all over the place. In July 2025, the Trump administration, writes Jim Jordan to Pam Bondi, as you know, Pam, he declassified numerous documents showing that the main findings that they created were false. And the Obama administration knowingly fabricated the findings for the purpose of undermining the Trump administration. And I don't doubt for a minute, if this would have taken stronger hold, if they could have ginned up, a little bit more animosity, a little bit more violence, a little bit more media complicity, I think the end game was to seed something to try to take the presidency away from Trump, to say it's illegitimate and to install somebody else or to, invalidate the results. If they could have gotten there in time. Fortunately, there's not much time, right? January 6th comes along. By the time they got the new report out, counting the votes already, he's coming in, getting sworn in, inaugurated in just weeks. So it's a very compressed time frame. So that they don't have much time to accomplish that. But they were racing to get it done. And fortunately, honestly, they tried again in 2020 to cause another scandal, which was the new January 6th, 4 years later. So it's just amazing. So anyways, we've got the newly declassified evidence that we all now see confirms that Brennan falsely testified to our committee. During a transcribed interview on May 11, 2023, Brennan stated that the CIA was not involved at all with the Steele dossier. Liar. He testified. He was talking to Matt Gaetz. Shout out to Matt Gaetz. He says, Matt Gaetz says, all right, John. So the fact that the DNC was providing the financing for the Steele dossier's development doesn't give you concern that it might be partisan since the Democrats, paid for it? Brennan says, again, that was happening back in 2016. I understand how you were able to tie this to my reference to my expertise, but I don't see how it has any relevance to the Hunter Biden laptop issue now. He just wants to talk about the laptop. Because remember, Brennan also signed that lying letter from those 51 morons, the intelligence community experts who said Hunter's laptop, which is as real as anything you've ever seen, too real. You can almost smell it through the screen. It's how disgusting it is. But he lied about that and all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. And the CIA rigged that too, man. The CIA had paid contractors who signed that letter. They had pre-publication approval of that letter. They ran that up the flagpole over there and they gave permission to publish that thing. So some CIA goons in HR approved it. And they also used the building. And then the CIA came out. If you're a contractor, you've got access to that. And there's evidence that this dude was going in and out. While working on it, Mike Morrell was the name of the dude. That was in 2020. Okay, so they've been rigging and scamming elections constantly, using the CIA as cover to do it. All the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. He doesn't want to talk about it here. Gates says, okay, well, that's fine. Well, you said that you signed this letter that we now acknowledge Joe Biden misused in a debate to fool the American public because you're this great Russia expert. So I'm trying to understand your Russia expertise, John. And you were involved in analyzing this information, says Matt Gaetz. Brennan says, no, I was not involved in analyzing the dossier at all. I said the first time I actually saw it, it was after the election. And the CIA was not involved at all with the dossier. You can direct that to the FBI and to others. Were you aware, says Gaetz, of the FBI's involvement with the dossier? He said, yes, I was. Because there's an annex in the intelligence community assessment that the Bureau asked to be included in there. It was their purview, their area, not ours at all. CIA had nothing to do with it. It was the FBI. Don't blame us, blame Comey. Now, a report also came out by the House Permanent Select Committee in 2017. And it was recently declassified. And now it shows that Brennan's testimony is false. Explaining, according to the report, the intelligence community assessment included supporting evidence for the ICA's false claim that Russia, quote, aspired to help President Trump win the election. And the report directed the reader to review Annex A. Just go look in there from Annex A for additional reporting from an FBI source on Russian influence efforts. Christopher Steele, the fake intelligence expert who generated propaganda for Hillary. Annex A, which was only included in the highest classified version of the ICA, was a 2-page summary of the Steele dossier, along with some analysis that struggled to imply that some dossier findings might have been corroborated by intelligence. It's just like some gobbledygook. It's not actually the dossier, it's a summary of the dossier. And we're going to reference that. That's highly classified that nobody can read as support for the main stuff that everybody can read. Well, what is it in there? Don't worry, it's a classified FBI annex. We have to protect our sources and methods, and they have a secret source in there, but you can trust us. No, it's fake Hillary Clinton propagandists. The CIA officer who served as the lead author of the ICA told the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence that he drafted Annex A. The CIA wrote that. They didn't just attach the dossier and say, well, the FBI wanted us to just attach this, go look at it. No, the CIA officer processed it, told that to Congress in coordination with the FBI, and then shoved it into the annex. So CIA says, well, we did it. And FBI is saying, yeah, they did it. We worked together on it. Ultimately, according to the documents now declassified by Trump, the decision to incorporate the information from the Steele dossier was jointly made by the directors of the FBI and the CIA. Comey and Brennan. Arrest them. Well, Comey's already in trouble. A senior FBI analyst confirmed this fact as well. FBI is pointing their fingers back, telling the House committee that after debating for several days on whether to include the dossier, upper levels at the FBI and the CIA decided to put it in. They had to put it in. They have nothing if they don't add that and hide it. The whole report is just kind of dragging anyways. It's still pathetic, even with that reference, but it delegitimizes the credibility of the whole thing, obviously. So they had to bury it in an annex. Brennan's assertion that the CIA was, quote, not involved at all, it's wrong. With the Steele dossier cannot be reconciled with the facts, says Jim Jordan. As the newly declassified documents show, a CIA officer drafted the annex containing a summary of the dossier. CIA processed the Hillary campaign propaganda. Brennan made the ultimate decision, along then with FBI Director James Comey, to include the information in the dossier in the ICA. And as discussed further below, Brennan even overruled senior officers who objected to the inclusion of the dossier material because it was campaign scam material. Here's more. Jim Jordan was asking some questions. Brennan falsely testified that when he told the committee the CIA opposed including the dossier, he says this: Brennan testified that the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the ICA. He testified during their depot. Chairman Jim Jordan says, all right, John, listen. Who'd you learn about the Steele dossier from? And how'd you learn about the dossier in December? Brennan, ex-CIA. Well, I received a copy of it from the FBI when they were wanting to have a summary of that document. So he's blaming them, liar. Attached to the intelligence community assessment that was done. We didn't do it. This was before we went to Trump Tower and briefed Donald Trump when Jim Comey was going to talk to Donald Trump about the contents of that dossier. And the CIA was very much opposed to having any reference or inclusion of the Steele dossier in the ICA. And so they sent over a copy of the dossier to say this was going to be separate from the rest of that assessment. And that's when the CIA was given formal access to it. And they reference it from their deposition. Now, it continues. And obviously that is a lie from the prior documents that we just saw. And Chairman Jordan continues. He says, this claim is contradicted by multiple sources that reveal Brennan's support for including the dossier. According to another CIA memo, declassified by the Trump administration, which I have queued up, when two CIA mission center leaders confronted Brennan with specific flaws in the dossier, Brennan disregarded their concerns. Quote, appearing more swayed by the dossier's general conformity with existing theories. Brennan later formalized that position in writing. He said, my bottom line is that I believe the information warrants inclusion in this report. It's Hillary Clinton fake campaign propaganda, but he wants it in there because if it's not in there, there's no basis on which to make the rest of their arguments. Similarly, the House committee report notes that when senior CIA officers demanded that Brennan actually remove the Steele dossier from the assessment, Brennan, quote, refused to remove it. When officers presented evidence of the dossier's, quote, many flaws, Brennan responded, and we read this previously here, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Doesn't it sound true? Like Trump would go urinate on a mattress in Russia? What? Ultimately, Brennan, quote, had to order the dossier included over the objections of the CIA professionals. Now, as the newly declassified documents demonstrate, Brennan eagerly wanted to include information from the dossier, a fact Brennan himself even put in writing. It all contradicts Brennan's testimony. He said to Congress, the CIA was very much opposed to including the Steele dossier, and he spoke for the agency. He spoke for the CIA. He says, we didn't do it, but they did. Now, he also lied during a hearing in 2017. We do have this clip. On May 23rd, Brennan testified before the committee. And let's pause here for a quick minute and look at that CIA report before we move on to Trey Gowdy. We got this from the CIA. This was just referenced. And this is another nice document that we hit some of the highlights on previously. But when we were here, it's an 8-pager. And this was just released by John Ratcliffe, okay, the new CIA director, June 26, 2025, from the CIA. They say, all right, this is a reference to the other fake ICA that was ordered and started to be drafted on December 30th, impacting the 2016 election that we've been talking about. To understand this, they have to explain a couple things, but let's just fast forward and take a look at what's going on with Steele. The decision by agency heads to include the Steele dossier ran counter to fundamental tradecraft principles and ultimately undermined the entire document. The ICA authors first learned of the dossier and the FBI's insistence on its inclusion on December 20th, the same day the largely coordinated draft was entering the review process at the CIA. FBI leadership made it clear that their participation in the ICA hinged on this document's inclusion, and over the next few days, repeatedly pushed to weave it in. Then, ICA authors and multiple managers, including two senior leaders, strongly opposed the inclusion of the dossier. They warned Brennan in an email that including it would wreck the whole thing. But despite these objections, Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytical soundness. And when confronted with the flaws, he appeared more swayed by the general conformity with the existing theories and ultimately added that in writing. They included it as a classified annex with a disclaimer that we didn't use this to reach the analytic conclusions. It's just like for further reading. See also, okay, whatever. These people are such scammers. They put that in there like, well, no. We didn't base our conclusions on it. Yes, you did. You put it in the main report. So, okay, so that's directly from the CIA as well. They've done their own analysis on it, and Brennan's a liar. So as this letter continues, we now move forward to the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. They brought Brennan back in May 23rd at an open hearing. During the hearing, Brennan falsely asserted that the Steele dossier was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence assessment that was done at all. Here's the clip with Trey Gowdy and John Brennan back in Congress.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had.
Yes, it was.
It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
Busted. All right, so he'll say, well, no, it's just a disclaimer, and we just added it in there. And we included it just like, I guess, just for fullness. And it had no basis on the underlying analysis that we came up with that was all fake. I don't think that that is going to hold water. Why'd you put it in the report if it didn't matter at all? Why'd you reference it as an annex? And you clearly knew about it. James Comey was beating you over the head with it. And you also communicated multiple times with other people at the CIA who said, please don't put this in there. It's not following the analytical state tradecraft principles, and he did it anyways because he needed it. Without it, there's nothing there. What are they going to say? They can't. The report is meaningless, so they had to add it in, and he was desperate to do it. Now he's getting caught, so we're happy to see it. And here was more from Brennan. Here's just another lie coming right out of this dude over from February 2018. Another great clip from Maze Moore digging into the archives. He says, Brennan talking about the Steele dossier, saying it has no role at all in their assessment. Watch how shameless these people can be, lying through their teeth right on cable news.
When did you first learn of the so-called Steele dossier and what Christopher Steele was doing?
Well, it was not a very well-kept secret among press circles for several months before it came out. And it was in late summer of 2016 when there were some individuals from the various U.S. news outlets who asked me about my familiarity with it. And I had heard just snippets about it. I did not know what was in there. I did not see it until later in that year. I think it was in December. But I was unaware of the provenance of it as well as what was in it. And it did not play any role whatsoever in the intelligence community assessment that was done, that was presented to then President Obama and then President-elect Trump.
Yes, it did. Otherwise, you wouldn't have included it in the report. Many people were objecting to it being included, and you overruled them because you had to serve up Obama a big spicy meatball, and you had nothing else because the Russians didn't interfere with the election. Your own intelligence agencies were saying that from the beginning. They may have bought ads or something like that, but they had no capability to actually impact it, and they did not actually impact it. Otherwise, you guys would have come up with a number. If there was an impact, well, how many votes was it? How many states did they swing for Trump? What's your conclusion on the ultimate outcome? But they didn't want to do that because they know that number was a big fat zero. And now they're all under scrutiny after these declassifications have hit. And we're hopeful to see him be the next domino to fall. And there's an interesting little thing happening here because now you've got, they're stronger if they are unified. But you can see what was happening here. Like Brennan was pointing the finger over at Comey, which incentivizes Comey to point the fingers back at Brennan. Now Bolton comes into play. Then you get a couple others in that room indicted. And now you start to ask yourself, who's going to flip and turn on everybody else? We're looking forward to it. It's like Traitor Survivor or something. And we're going to be here for it. Next indictment, hopefully coming soon. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we continue here. All right, now we're not done yet. Now we're talking about Jack, not a real boy, Smith, because he's in more trouble now. Jack Smith in more trouble. Ted Cruz got spied on by his squad of goons, and I'm sure Ted is not going to be happy about this. Fortunately, he can tell us about it on his podcast. But here is what Axios is reporting. They got their hands on the inside scoop, and they say, yep, his records were targeted in addition to everybody else's. And we know that there were 8 other senators who were a part of this spying campaign. And Jack Smith's lawyers have responded to this in a very interesting response where some of their pages are just all footnotes and not really any content. But we'll come back to that. Here's what the story tells us. Ted Cruz got spied on. His phone records were also subpoenaed, along with Tuberville, Lindsey Graham, who's like extra nervous of all of them, Marsha Blackburn. And so we'll see what Ted has to say about this. But here's what they now know. Congress has been demanding investigations of Jack Smith. Grassley has been leading the way on this, sending letters to Verizon and AT&T. Why did you even give him those cell phone records when you knew that they were about senators? There's other laws to prevent you from doing that. But now Jack also went after Ted. Cruz's phone records were ultimately not analyzed because AT&T did not comply with the subpoena. Okay, so Ted's like, whew. According to a source familiar with the situation. The disclosure makes Cruz the 9th Republican senator for whom the DOJ sought phone records according to a subpoena that Axios got, which I wish they would share with us. His inclusion was not previously known. Here's everyone else. Marsha Blackburn, Tennessee. Ron Johnson, Wisconsin. Bill Haggerty, Tennessee. Josh Hawley, Cynthia Loomis, Lindsey Graham, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, and Mike Kelly from Pennsylvania. All of them spied on by Jack Smith. And man, you've never seen them as unhappy about this. And we were trying to ask ourselves, what was the common thread here? And our friend Julie Kelly, I think, may have nailed it. She said, here is the reason why they were targeted specifically. Marsha Blackburn had a comment. We'll come back and play this in a bit. But she said, when you look at the 8 senators, now 10, that Jack Smith, or 9 plus the Republican, that the House rep, that Jack Smith decided to surveil, the common thread is that we all are Republicans and all support Trump. The scandal confirmed America's worst fears about the Biden FBI. We can't let Jack Smith get away with it. And it's like, I mean, we were pretty well confirmed before this. We're happy to see all the senators now getting upset. We've said many times, like John McClain, welcome to the party, pal. Nice to have you here. But it's something we've been witnessing. We watched it for 4 years with them. And only now are they getting animated. We're happy that they're here and getting animated about it, but it's deeper than that. Julie Kelly says, actually, the common thread is that all supported a 10-day audit of the 2020 election result. And all planned to object to the counting of the disputed votes on January 6. Smith was establishing a basis to include some senators in a sweeping seditious conspiracy case had Kamala won. Yikes. So there may be, a lot of additional charges that we'd be dealing with if Trump didn't win again and they stole it again. But we'll come back to Marsha Blackburn and let's take a look more about what happened with Ted. So the newly reported subpoena requested records from Ted's cell phone from January 4th through the 7th of 21. The document spells out their request for names, addresses. It wants, quote, detailed records for inbound and outbound calls, text messages, direct connect, and voicemail messages. Ooh, so they might have that for Lindsey Graham. What he's saying, Arctic Frost was the Biden administration's 21st century digital Watergate, Cruz said. He writes, they weaponized the DOJ and the FBI to try to access records on me, President Trump, and other political opponents of the Democrat Party. It was intentional, says Cruz, targeted political spying that likely went to the very highest levels of the administration, demonstrating utter contempt for the Constitution and separation of powers, and there should be the broadest possible investigations and accountability. Now, they've demanded that Smith come in and testify. Blackburn is demanding answers from the phone companies, demanding Bondi investigate. We saw Grassley sent letters to all the CEOs of the telecoms. Smith investigated Trump. Bolton just got indicted. Tisch got indicted. And hopefully Jack is also on the list. Now, here was the original list. And remember, Chuck Grassley came out, targeted these members of Congress. And yeah, one of them's a rep. So I think it's up to 10 Republicans now. But Jack Smith is responding to this. So Jack Smith's lawyers came out. They sent this one back over to Chuck Grassley. And this is from Covington and Burling, which is a major law firm. We saw them duking it out with the Trump administration over the security clearances. And did they settle? I think they may have settled. And Burling settlement with Trump. Let's see if they did. Trump attacked. I don't know if they have yet or not. Anyways, so they were a part of it, I do believe, and now they're representing Jack Smith. Perfect for them. So here's what we've got. Dear Chairman Grassley, says Jack Smith's legal team, we write on behalf of our client Jack in response to concerns that you've raised about our investigation into President Trump. Now, although you have not reached out to us to discuss the matter, they're like, Chuck, just give us a call. We are compelled to correct inaccurate assertions about us using a grand jury subpoena for the toll records of 8 senators and 1 member of the House. Okay, so first of all, they're being a little dishonest here. There's a lot more than 8 senators. The ultimate scope of this, we don't know. But Ted Cruz makes it 9 senators. It's like, oh, it was only 8 and 9 and maybe 10 and maybe 11 and maybe it just keeps growing. And 1 member of the House. Mr. Smith's actions as special counsel, writes his lawyers, were consistent with the decisions of a prosecutor who has devoted his career to following the facts and the law without fear or favor and without regard for the political consequences. Platitudes, meaningless. His investigative decisions were similarly motivated, and the subpoena for toll records was proper, lawful, and consistent with established policy. And while his prosecutions of Trump have politicized and been politicized by others, he and politics never influenced his decision-making. He was just playing patty cake with Andrew Weissman in some stupid little stage. A number of people have falsely stated that Mr. Smith tapped the senators' phones. So they're going to quibble over semantics and labels because it's really important to them. Spied on their communications or surveilled their conversations. Now, as you know, Chuck Grassley, toll records merely contain telephonic routing information collected after the calls have taken place, identifying incoming and outgoing call numbers, times of the calls, and their duration. Toll records are historical. They don't include the contents of the calls, and wiretapping is different. That includes intercepting comms in real time, which we did not do. Okay, thank you for that. It's like, okay, you stabbed somebody to death and you didn't murder them with a gun or something. It's like, it's still a privacy offense that resulted in gathering information about sitting senators. Thank you for toning down the severity of the degree of the intrusion, but you just admitted what you did. Now, as described by various senators, the toll data collection was narrowly tailored, and it was limited to just 4 days, January 4th through January 7th, with a focus on telephonic activity during the period immediately surrounding the J6 Capitol. And again, this is all we know. And we can just presume that they're not telling us everything, because if the lawyers knew everything about it, they would have told us about Ted Cruz in here. And that makes the total number 9. Sought the phone records. Yeah, and here's the full list. Blackburn, Johnson, Haggerty, Hawley, Cynthia, Loomis, Graham, Sullivan, Tuberville, and another rep, Mike Kelly, and now Ted Cruz, who was not in that list. So we're up to 10. So they didn't tell us about the full scale of this, which means they're probably not telling us about the full scale of this. So with the focus on telephonic activity, so like, in other words, why should we believe you on any of that? Maybe there's a whole nother set of records that was requested about other people who were talking with Trump as it relates to Mar-a-Lago. Did you not request any phone records for the Mar-a-Lago case? You were only focused on the January 6th case? I doubt that. The subpoena limited temporal range. It's consistent with a focused effort to confirm or refute reports that during or after the J6 Capitol, that Trump's surrogates attempted to call senators to urge them to delay the certification of the results, which is their right to do, by the way. They could have come back in and delayed the counting of the votes, but they didn't because they were all freaked out. So it worked perfectly. In fact, by the time Mr. Smith's team conducted a records analysis, it had already been reported that Trump and Giuliani did try calling senators for such a purpose. Okay, with one senator releasing a voicemail from Giuliani. They're allowed to do that. We wanted them to pause and ask for a recount of the votes and reject the rigged ballots and send them back to the states. But that never happened, obviously, because of this insurrection that they engineered. It is well established that obtaining telephone records pursuant to a subpoena does not violate an individual's expectation of privacy, so we can do it to everybody we want. Indeed, Robert Hur got a bunch of records in his investigation of Biden. During the current Trump administration, which was an open investigation, right? Now, during the current Trump administration, the DOJ has routinely relied upon subpoenaed toll records in numerous criminal prosecutions. Did they go after Democrat senators during the Robert Hur and their legislative function? I don't think these are apples and apples there. During President Trump's first term, the DOJ also, Trump's term, reportedly got communications of 2 Democratic members of Congress, Stinky Eric Swalwell and pencil neck Adam Schiff, 2 reps, and more than 43 other staffers. More recently, the DOJ used toll records to prosecute Senator Menendez. So they say, well, you know, if we can do it for these people, then we can do it for all these senators who really had no nexus to a crime at all, unless that's what they were trying to argue. Strange. Now, the DOJ, understanding that their prosecutors may need to seek toll records, has procedures, and Jack Smith followed all of them. He used the records, saying it was lawful, and there's no support for Kash Patel to say that he hid this from anybody, or that he put these in a lockbox and then put the vault in a secret place where nobody could see it. They say, we don't even know what Kash Patel's talking about. But Smith's use of the records is inconsistent with someone who tried to conceal them. In fact, the indictment describes some of these calls that were made to U.S. senators. Yeah, you said that Trump made those calls, not that you were monitoring the senator's reception of those calls. And the special counsel report refers to the use of toll records in the investigation, not toll records from senators there, Jack. Moreover, the precise records at issue were also produced in discovery to Trump's personal lawyers, some of whom now serve in senior positions. So Trump's lawyers knew about it, so that's okay for the senators? We hope that this information is helpful. It's not. I think this is just going to anger the senators even more, as it should. We're confident that an objective assessment of the facts will compel the inescapable conclusion that this was all legitimate, entirely lawful, and appropriate. This is great. So I hope Marsha Blackburn got tonight. She's not going to be happy about this. And she can read it. And Tuberville, who's already been calling for Jack Smith to be in jail, can see what they think about it. Here is what Marsha posted yesterday before Jack Smith's lawyers released this email. And we'll see if she has anything to say more recently.
I think you're exactly right. And you know, when you look at the 8 senators that Jack Smith decided to surveil, there's a common thread. We are all Republicans. We support President Trump, and we had valid questions about the 2020 election. And thank goodness Kash Patel has fired everybody that was in that CR-15 unit working for Jack Smith. So they're fired. We are going after him. DOJ can do their investigation. I have sent a letter over to the D.C. bar for a complaint, and then he practices. He's licensed in Tennessee and New York. And after the DOJ does their investigation, we are going to push to have him disbarred.
Let's go. And Tuberville, of course, wants him to be in jail, which is also another good idea. But Chuck Grassley just came out and responded to Jack Smith's letter. He said, just received a letter from Jack Smith about my Arctic frost investigation. I'm conducting an objective assessment of the facts and law like he says he wants. So far, we exposed an anti-Trump FBI agent, started the investigation, broke the rules, and only Republicans were targeted. Smells like politics, and it is stinky indeed. So thank you to Chuck Grassley. We'll keep our eye on this one, but I'm sure the scam is much bigger than we even know. It's up to 9 senators now. How many other people were a part of this dragnet? And I wonder if, you know, like Supreme Court judges, like Clarence Thomas's wife or somebody was also snagged up in this because there were also news articles about her, and everybody was being bundled up in the anti-Trump campaign in the aftermath of the Biden theft. And so I'm sure more powerful people are going to be ensnared, and hopefully the pressure continues to build to hold the people who did this stuff accountable for abusing their office to target their political opponents, to manufacture crimes, propaganda, and abuse the intelligence agencies to sideline their opponents. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, now we got one final update on the day, and here is this one from Chicago. A Biden judge now blocking ICE arrests. This is a battle that's happening all across the country. Can the president deploy National Guard troops? Can ICE agents conduct arrests? The Supreme Court is going to have to come in and settle a lot of this. But this decision came down out of the Eastern Division of the Northern District of Illinois, drafted by this judge, a Joe Biden judge, who was appointed in 2023, brand new on the scene, and is now saying you cannot properly arrest, you cannot conduct arrests of illegals unless they're conducted properly according to terms that he feels are appropriate in the case. Now, here is what the background looks like. So this case has been going on for quite a long time, and I wanted to just show you the history on where it started all the way back in 2018. Now, Trump was the president back then. It's his first term. He's executing immigration enforcement. People sue. They say, you can't arrest us unless you meet these certain criteria. And we'll read what those are. But it was kind of on pause for a very long time. You can see 2018, 2020. Biden comes in. There's nothing to complain about. Okay, it's an immigration free-for-all. Nobody's getting arrested. And then everything is kind of stagnant for a while. There's some stuff that's being filed. And then it's pretty quiet. All the way June 1, 2023, things pretty quiet. This attorney withdraws as counsel. Trump wins. Boom, 2025 comes, and now the plaintiffs are back. They say, we're part of an organization of communities against deportations. A bunch of illegal alien sympathizers filed a new motion back in March. They say, here's a declaration. We had a prior settlement agreement with the state, the city, with ICE, saying that if you're going to arrest people, you're going to do it this way. And now Trump came in and he's violating the terms of that settlement. And the settlement, you could argue, was started back during Trump's first term. So as we get into this, we can see we come forward here. Fast forward, Trump is conducting the arrest of the ICE deportations. We're now in October, and we see responses are being filed and a bunch of stuff has now dropped. So the judge issued this memo, and I want to run through it. It's a big order. It's 52 pages. We'll hit the highlights just so we can get a basis for what's going on. But this now is going to prevent non-citizen illegal aliens from being arrested in this region unless certain criteria are met that are very high. So practically, it's going to make it very difficult to conduct these arrests until this is reversed or appealed or stayed or whatever. But here's what came down. He writes, in 2018, 5 individual plaintiffs, okay, so all of these people, Margarito Castañón Nava, Miguel Cortez Torres, Guillermo Hernandez, and all of them are here. John Doe doesn't want to use his official, name, Eric Rivera Sales, and all of them, okay? So 2018, they don't want to get deported, they sue. So the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights and organized communities against deportations, some NGOs or some hack, agencies, they filed a class action lawsuit against Trump's homeland back in 2018 and against ICE. They say, you can't arrest us. You need a warrant to arrest us for immigration purposes. So in other words, they get special privileges. Okay, most arrests in Arizona or in the country really are done without a warrant. Okay, you have probable cause to conduct the arrest. You're urinating in public. They say, oh, you're peeing in public. You can't do that here in Scottsdale. you're going to jail. So they arrest you and take you into custody and process you for a crime. You need a warrant, same with a DUI, okay? Unless I refuse to give you my blood sample or my breath sample, they go get a warrant to pull that out of you. Okay, so most people in this country, if you've ever been arrested, are probably arrested without a warrant. But illegal aliens are going to get little due process premium here, okay? Because they're better than us. And so they need, if you have probable cause that they're in this country illegally and you can conduct an arrest to deport them, we're going to see they get special privileges because how dare you do that to an illegal alien? So they come through, they say, we're going to have this limitation. Now, after the court denied ICE and their motion to dismiss back in 2018, the parties agreed to settle the case. So there was a settlement that came in and granted approval, saying that we have a settlement agreement. ICE agreed that there would be several obligations in this region: Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Missouri, and Kentucky. The agreement had a 3-year term and it was set to expire on May 12, 2025, unless enforcement provisions triggered its extension. So now it's like a private contract, essentially. Okay, these illegal aliens, I'm presuming, and these, coalitions against deportations, illegal alien facilitators, they settle with the government, and then the government is bound by their terms. So there's no, and the judges approve it, and the judges kind of force them into these things. We saw this back in 2020. They did this same scam with the election rules. Remember, people would sue the Retired Alliance of Michigan or whatever. Many of Mark Elias's affiliated groups would sue. They would say, grandmas can't go vote because COVID. So we need to have them all register online and waive their signature requirements in Wisconsin and blah, blah, blah. And the secretaries of state would be sued. Democrat secretaries of state would be sued by Democrat entities. They would settle the terms, and then the election rules would change, because a judge would approve it and mandate it and say, issue the new guidance, secretary. You have to go issue new guidance to everybody and go conduct elections this way. All a scam, because the legislature sets the terms of the elections. And so they usurp their power out from under them. Same type of thing is happening here. You've got an agreement between illegal alien adjacent individuals and the government. And now they're going to say this has to be extended in perpetuity because you can't conduct these arrests. So the parties agree. They were able to resolve any disputes about ICE and their compliance during the first 2.5 years of its term. However, shortly after the second Trump administration began, their lawyers got multiple reports from the illegal aliens. They said, ICE arrested us, and they arrested us without warrants in violation of our prior settlement agreement. After trying without success to resolve their disputes, they then sued again. They filed another motion to enforce our settlement agreement. Then they supplemented their filings, and they say that ICE has engaged in repeated material violations, and that 26 of our illegal alien class members were arrested without a warrant. Now, to be clear, they don't challenge ICE's authority to make targeted arrests with administrative arrest warrants, nor do they challenge the authority of ICE to arrest foreign nationals with judicial warrants. But they say that ICE agents, they assert that they had valid warrants to arrest roughly half the people, and that they properly executed warrantless arrests for the remainder. So they're saying, well, ICE is actually complying with some. You need warrants, whether it's an administrative warrant or a judicial warrant, to conduct this arrest. Now, ICE has another process for this that we'll get into, but they say that's the problem. Now, they filed a motion pursuant to rules to modify the agreement and to declare a bunch of things. They say they're not complying, repeated violations, instruct them not to circumvent the requirements. You have to have a warrant, and you cannot write in the field. Okay, so the ICE agents are writing warrants, like these administrative warrants, in the field, and they can't do that, saying that ICE's obligations are now terminated, and we want you to extend the term of the agreement by 3 years. Okay, so make it harder for them to arrest these people. That is that the illegal alien adjacent organizations want, and because they're not in strict compliance with it, We want to extend it for another 3 years. Oh, guess what happens in 3 years? Yeah, Trump's not the president anymore, give or take. So ICE in response says we're not violating the agreement. Actually, we're following the agreement to the T. And by the way, the agreement already expired at the time of June 11th, right? So it was scheduled to expire. So it's already over and you can't extend it. We're in October now. Finally, the judge says on September 26th, there was a notice of an additional violation. And they're saying that Trump is doing Operation Midway Blitz. There's immigration enforcement happening all over the place. And we're just totally freaked out. Now, the judge tells us, Biden judge appointed like 2 years ago. After considering the parties' submissions, here's what the court finds. First, we find that the illegals have shown by a preponderance of the evidence that 22 out of the 26 illegals were arrested without a warrant. And as I said before, most people are arrested without a warrant. You just need probable cause and you can facilitate that arrest. Now, the court orders ICE to provide relief to those individuals under the terms of the agreements, pay their attorney fees because they didn't have a proper warrant that they incurred. So all these illegal alien groups get paid. And second, the court, in its discretion, finds that they have met their burden. And we are going to extend this agreement, which makes it harder to arrest the illegals. But the court does find that the modifications are not properly tailored. So I'm not going to extend it 3 years. I'm just going to extend it to February 2nd, which corresponds between the number of days between that ICE was not complying and the memo. And it's not going to be 3 years because that's kind of a windfall for you to extend it beyond its expiration date. So that's going to move it to February 2nd, 26. The court will also adjust the reporting requirements so that ICE now reports to us and the judge is in charge of proper deportations that the executive branch runs. And by the way, these illegal aliens, they can already go file a petition for habeas corpus. They can already go and say, I'm being wrongfully detained. They're not losing those rights at all. All this is meant to do is to stop the actual enforcement, which is why they filed them this way, so that ICE has to go talk to some Democrat judge who is never going to grant warrants for these things or go through an administrative process that's much more cumbersome and burdensome that practically makes it difficult to actually effectuate the detentions. Now, in the sections below, judge is going to give us a bunch of nonsense. We know what immigration law is. If you're illegal, get out of the country. That's the law. Get out. Now, here's the procedural history of the lawsuit. Again, there's a lot going on here. There were settlement negotiations. Court denied ICE's motion. So ICE actually settled this. No, they began settlement negotiations mid-2020. So it is the same scam. So the parties had one settlement conference over which the undersigned, the same judge signed this, and they continued to negotiate. And ultimately, they executed the settlement agreement on November 30th, 2021. Who is the president? Joe Biden. It's the same scam. So blue, Democrat entities sue blue secretaries of state, blue judges, grant the settlement, and we have new election terms that bypass the entire legislative branch. It's unconstitutional. They did it everywhere in 2020. They just ran the same scam here. Yeah, just have these illegal alien deportation coalitions sue and we'll just settle it. The Biden people will settle it, which says you can't arrest anybody. So now Trump has to be bound by the terms of that settlement agreement just to enforce the law. Judge Pallmeyer granted preliminary approval of this agreement December 1, 2021. Then he certified a settlement class of all current and future persons arrested without a warrant for a civil violation of immigration law in ICE Chicago field office's area of responsibility. So in other words, it's a judicial takeover. They've now commandeered enforcement by tying it to due process and a warrant requirement for illegal aliens. She then granted the motion in February 2022. This is very fair and reasonable. So the Biden administration comes in, reverse everything that Trump did, and then settles this in a way that is devastating to America. And the blue judges all approve it and say, perfect, we're going to hold this in perpetuity forever. And Congress didn't pass anything. This isn't democracy at all. This is a judicial takeover in conjunction with a complicit executive branch, and it's attempting to bind us into the future, and it is. So here's their settlement agreement. We don't need to read the particulars, but there it is. Training, compliance, remedies for class members. It's like what the judges are doing now by certifying classes and issuing nationwide injunctions. They basically did that back then. Here's a class of everybody. You get all these privileges, and your attorney's fees are going to get paid for if they violate you, and we're going to extend this indefinitely. The parties agree that the settlement agreement was effective during the Biden years, and that the term would have expired in 2025, May, but they dispute the status, and so they want to postpone it, and they go through the agreement, and the agreement is just obviously a rigged agreement between Biden and illegal alien groups. So it's going to be a ridiculous agreement, and they're trying to bind Trump to it. Now, their motion to enforce, they're going to give us a big laundry list, a parade of horribles. They say, we were all subjected to illegal arrests. And most of this is just that. This judge is just going to cry over every one of these illegals. Francisco de la Torre had a restaurant. Somebody else had a restaurant. ICE showed up. Big sob story. Video footage. Arrested this dude. You're gone. Here's another one. They have authority to briefly detain. Evidence shows employees feel like they were not free to leave. Then they filled out forms after the arrest that were submitted to the immigration courts. Although these documents documented that they were foreign nationals in the U.S. illegally, it doesn't provide probable cause that they were likely to flee before a warrant could be obtained. And so that was part of the terms of the agreement. Okay, you need probable cause to conduct the arrest, or actually you need a warrant, which is ridiculous, to conduct an arrest. You need some other approval to do that arrest. If you have people who are here illegally, just, oh, you're here illegally. Just like if you're doing anything else. If you're standing there urinating in public, you're breaking the law. If you're in our country illegally, you're breaking the law. Urinating in public, they just put the cuffs on you and take you to jail. Then you can see a judge after that. But a cop looks at you, identifies indicia that you're breaking the law. How is that any different than an illegal alien? Many of whom are also urinating in the streets. But they, pursuant to the terms of the settlement, you need a special warrant. You need special privileges to go and actually conduct and touch an illegal because they're better than us. So here, such a reading would say this is a warrantless arrest, and you're not allowed to do that. Now, none of the class members or their forms contain facts that they even had probable cause to believe that they were likely to escape. So there were really two conditions. One, you need a warrant, or you could conduct an arrest if they were going to escape before you could get a warrant. So without a warrant, if you had reasonable likelihood that they would escape before a warrant could be obtained. We'll read the specific language coming up here in a minute. There was another exception. The supplemental forms are immaterial. So any of the paperwork that you're doing is not good enough. And it just goes on. So they walk us through every one of these, okay? Senin Becerra Hernandez. Okay, I know, terrible. This person, Julio Noriega. Okay, we got it. Here's another one for this dude. And they say, well, the documents were prepared on scene, and you can't do that either. And so if you're preparing your warrants in the field, then that's also a problem. And in his declaration, he explains, some ICE field officer, Director Olson, he explained how warrants were prepared in the field. Prior to the onset of the operation, ICE identified targets. And according to other plaintiffs, Tom Homan, the border czar, he said, yeah, we're going to make arrests. Now, bunch of law, again, that he's going to go through. So we're going to fast forward through it just to see kind of what the conclusion is. And the remaining arguments, they say, are meritless. ICE offers two more supports saying we can do this. But he says, no, you can't do it. An ICE officer can arrest a foreign national without a warrant so long as he's got probable cause. So you have to have a warrant, but you can do it without a warrant. So long as an officer has probable cause, the person is in violation of immigration law and is likely to escape before a warrant can be obtained for his arrest. Okay. So that's like the thing that makes it a lot more difficult. They added this in. Okay. You cannot pick them up if they're not going to flee or something, you need probable cause and they're going to escape. Otherwise, you got to go get, a much more substantive warrant, which makes it basically difficult, right? You see somebody, you see probable cause to go get them. I got to go get a warrant for it. Now you've lost that opportunity. So finally, ICE comes back and they say, nope, you got to follow through the settlement. And under the settlement, you lack authority to do it. Again, more sob stories. Bernardino Ronda Marines, Abel Orozco Ortega is also having a Jacnuel Hernandez Rojas, Herbiarto, Selvin Call, Jose, the claim of this person. Okay, they're all, I know, poor, aggrieved, illegal aliens. We got it. And so they want this enforcement and they want attorney's fees for all of those illegals. And they say everything was fine. Things were fine under the agreement until Trump came in. Then ICE failed to comply. They started utilizing their field warrants to effectuate arrests of our protected class illegals. So in its response, ICE says, we're allowed to do this. That there is no doubt that they say that they know that you were going to violate the agreement, but you're not allowed to do that. And so we're getting to the conclusion of this. The court is going to extend the agreement, but not for the 3 years until February 2nd. The court further orders ICE to reissue the broadcast to all ICE officers nationwide. Okay. You can only make arrests without a warrant, if you think that they're going to run away from you. And if they make those arrests, they're not going to run away from you. Just, cite them and release them and issue them a notice to appear, and then they'll come appear and you don't have to pick them up at all, kind of a thing. Or don't go after them. Just only go pick up the people that you can get proper paperwork for before you identify that they're in the country illegally. Making the arrest very unlikely to happen. So finally, it's our understanding that you can keep us updated about warrantless arrests and administrative warrants that are not issued in conjunction with notices to appear, the NTAs, just like a cite and release type of a thing rather than picking them up. You cite an illegal alien, you're going to come to court, right? Oh yeah, I'll be there. Okay. And then they never do. Therefore, the court orders ICE to produce to the plaintiffs a list, everybody who was arrested and subjected to your abuse. ICE shall file a certification, and within 10 business days, you shall give all the information. And for the reasons stated above, we're going to enforce the terms of Biden's rigged settlement agreement against all of America in perpetuity, at least until next year. And they'll do everything they can to extend that even further. So that's what's happening out there and in Chicago and elsewhere. At these No Kings rallies, we had a bunch of lunatics flooding the streets. Homeland said, during the Chicago No Kings rally, where all this is going on, violent rioters called for the cold-blooded murder of ICE agents. This rioter and his statements have now been referred to the DOJ. No place in America for psychotic incitements of violence. To those who threaten violence, we are going to hunt you down. We're going to find you, and justice will be served. Here's this maniac.
You gotta grab a gun. We gotta turn around the guns on this fascist system. These ICE agents gotta get shot and wiped out.
Crazy. And a lot of Democrats believe that. So now Homeland Security is commenting on that. And we'll see if a federal judge releases that dude once he gets picked up. Here's Brandon Johnson. He's saying basically the same thing, saying, in our city, we have a sanctuary policy where we're going to bring in foreign invaders and just kind of take over everything and have the judges back them up against the American people and our entire country. But he says we're going to need to fight back from Chicago.
Save our democracy and protect humanity.
It's a constitutional republic.
We have to band together to fight back. And the courts, that's still one place where I believe that there is some check on this administration. And when we filed this lawsuit there were 8 other cities that joined us, just like there are cities across this country that are now creating ice-free zones, right? And so what we're doing is simply leading the only way Chicago knows how. Being on the front lines is something that we're very accustomed to, and it's going to take all of us to ensure that we dismantle tyranny in this country, save our democracy, and protect humanity.
Tyranny is coming from the courts, the ones who say that they can give illegal aliens more privileges than actual American citizens and undermining the rule of law in the process. Dan Bongino is also talking about illegal aliens now shooting, apparently, in South LA. A subject was wounded, and I think Fox News was reporting about this. Here is what they said. An illegal alien was shot. Both have non-life-threatening injuries. Some illegal tried to escape. This is what's going down in LA. On the West Coast.
News alert. This is video that we just have in from moments ago from Los Angeles. This is according to multiple ICE and Fox News sources. A U.S. Marshal and an illegal alien were both shot in L.A. this morning. It was during an immigration operation. Both at this time, we are told, have non-life-threatening injuries. Fox is told that federal agents surrounded and boxed in a target. That target then rammed federal vehicles in an attempt to escape. The feds fired their weapons. One U.S. Marshal was hit in his hand in what initially appears to be a bullet ricochet. The target criminal alien was hit in the elbow, we are told. Both expected to be okay, and they are at the hospital, and we are awaiting an update on that situation.
In L.A., things are popping off, literally. And same thing's happening in Portland, just up the coast. You can see Nick Sorter, who's been there, on the scene, was arrested. He said, you know what's interesting? The Portland police just provided cover to Antifa terrorists at ICE Portland. They were beaming spotlights in the eyes, saying the Portland police are literally aiding a terrorist group. Here is what it looked like, courtesy of Nick.
Nice aim. I love that. Whoa. Get the middle.
They're shining something in the... They're hiding behind the sign. And they're running for cover behind Portland police. Oh my God. You've got to be kidding me.
Portland police officer. Yeah, we'll protect you. Get over here, illegal aliens. We're saving people. Here's more. Bondi posted this today. She said, shutdown Democrats are already refusing to pay our law enforcement agents. Now, Rep. Robert Garcia and Senator Blumenthal, is that Da Nang Dick Blumenthal? Yeah, are trying to put ICE agents at risk just for doing their jobs, saying the Justice Department has zero tolerance for violence against law enforcement, and we will prosecute any person who physically assaults our agents. Here is this congressman.
The Oversight Committee, I shared this with the mayor, over the course of the next couple of weeks, the Oversight Committee will be launching on their website a master ICE tracker where we're going to be essentially tracking every single instance that we can verify that the community will be able to send us information on, and it'll be all available in one central place. And you'll be able to look up that information as it relates to Los Angeles as well. Yeah, so the revolutionaries and the invaders can now organize their counter forces and their reactions happening in LA. And we're asking ourselves, how long can that go on where you have federal officers, federal officials coming under scrutiny from foreign invaders who are attacking their facilities, following them home, doxing their families, showing up at their hotel rooms and more, and then they'll tell us to turn the temperature down. Here's the president from the Oval Office today commenting about what's going on in Portland and our cities.
Mr. President, yeah, please. An appeals court recently ruled that you can send the National Guard into Portland, Oregon. Do you feel unfettered to send the National Guard into whatever city you want now?
Well, I guess that was the decision. I can send the National Guard if I see problems. I looked at Portland over the weekend. The place is burning down, just burning down. We weren't there. We didn't spend much time there because we were waiting for that decision. but the court probably maybe that influenced the court. But you look at a place like Portland, it's ridiculous when they say that there's no problem. The place was on fire over the weekend. But we won the case in Court of Appeals. I think it was the Ninth Circuit, so that's pretty good.
Covered that yesterday if you missed it.
Very strong opinion that we have the right to use the National Guard. You would think that would be common sense. We have the right to use the National Guard to put out trouble. Well, that's how I got elected. One of the reasons I got elected. Yes.
That is one of the reasons. And illegal immigration is happening all over the country. A lot less now, but we still have little pockets of sanctuary cities that will defend that institution because it is their constituency. It makes up their cities, their states. It elects these people. They get their donations and their political power from this constituency, but not anymore. So the ICE decision, I'm sure, will be appealed. We've got Amy Coney Barrett, who's also ordered the final replies in the Supreme Court. And so we're going to keep our eye on all of this, but hopefully SCOTUS comes in and settles a lot of these issues. We'll be here. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my beautiful friends, what an amazing stream it has been. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. First of all, John Brennan, the ex-CIA director, is now getting a criminal referral over to Pam Bondi, courtesy of the House Judiciary Committee. Jim Jordan, the chairman, drafting the letter. We went through the details, got up to speed on everything that happened, refreshed our recollection with the CIA document, with the DNI document, piecing together what ultimately is going on here and why John Brennan is complicit in rigging intelligence to try to pervert an election. All of that in the first segment. Then we talked about Jack Smith and how he went after Ted Cruz, and Ted Cruz is now Senator number 9. Jack Smith's attorneys have responded to this. Chuck Grassley has responded to the response, saying he'll look into this. And if Jack Smith didn't do anything illegal, then we'll just leave it there. Chuck Grassley's a stand-up dude. But we know Jack Smith and many others, Jack Smith was not even lawfully appointed, as was discovered by Judge Cannon. So we went through all of that and got some reaction from Marsha Blackburn before we wrapped it up with this decision from Judge Jeffrey Cummings out of Illinois, appointed by Joe Biden in 2023, now saying Trump cannot arrest any illegal aliens unless he meets very, very high bars and satisfies preconditions that are going to be difficult to satisfy. Obviously, the Trump administration is fighting the immigration battles on multiple fronts, and so we'll keep our eye on that one, of course. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And thank you for being here. Very much appreciate your support. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for sharing the video with a friend or family member and commenting down below and all the things. We're grateful for you. All right, so, and I mean that. I just know you get tired of hearing it all. That's why we go fast. So, my friends, thank you for that. We got some great donos coming in. Donut and new membos. Woo! A bunch of new membos. Courtesy of Mock Schnell. Man, we got a bunch of comments. Thank you, everybody, for these. Bunch of donos. Here you go. It's 4-Day Tuesday. Oh, we got a countdown. Yeah, man, this is going to be the last Tuesday that I am a non-married man that we spend together. Probably. You know, a lot can happen between now and Saturday. But we're optimistic. We're pretty optimistic about it. We feel good about it. All right, so Maynard, member for 21 months. Thank you, Maynard. Thank you for the membo. Mucho appreciatado. Well, that's interesting. Have you been gifted membos for 21 months in a row? That's awesome, Maynard. That happens, man. That happens if you hang in the chat. Thanks for being here, the Maynard. That's a lot of time. That's over 2 babies. Mock Schnell. Hey, Mock Schnell. Got an hour off today, so getting to listen live. So a little donation just because, and pre-happy wedding day, Rob. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell. Yeah, it's coming up. I hope you're having a great day. You got an hour off, man. Soak it up. So what did you do? What did you do with it? Take a nap? Hey, Rob, what's up? Rob, can you make Mama G's meatballs or her other foods in that AI browser? That would be pretty cool. Haha. Probably. I probably could. We have a recipe list. We did the whole thing. We did a whole members only meatball party, remember? It was a lot of fun. We have the whole recipe. The meatballs are great in the summer sauce. I think my mom's coming up here tomorrow, so maybe you'll see her. What's up? Thank you for that, Rob, over on Rumble. Mock Schnell, 50 new Membo friends coming in. Man, amazing, Mock Schnell. This is what you did on your hour off. We appreciate it. 50 new Membo friends coming in. And Membos, we had, I think, some success with our automatic transition on YouTube over to the members only after party, which we'll do today. So new members, stick around. Fet420, what's up? Easy Money Hicks is here. Old School, Todd Loop, what's up? R backs in. We got Mountain Cat, Miss Attitude, Cindy C, what's up? Bright Eyes, Audie Joe, J Dubs is here. Christo Bruns, Tsunami, Diana W, Matt Man. We got Rowe, Jay Lynn, what's up? LTC Vet, Paul Davis, Patty Blisma, Don Boo, Debbie, TG, Thomas McKelvey. We got Slugs, Dean Peterson, Henry G, Marco Kungla, Paralegal Extraordinaire. Man, we love our paralegals here. Sean Ruckus, Nay, Ray Neptune. What's up, Britt Cormier? Laura Linton, Thomas Lilybridge, Andrea Smilin. We got Sunshine McLeod, RML Centiful Crafts. That sounds nice. I am Aaron's infected toe. Welcome. Put some aloe vera or something on there. Scruffy looking turf herder. Welcome. Timothy Farelli. What's up, David de Rossier? The indignant goose is here. Brian Howell. What's up? Greer loves America. So do we. Cat Fisher. JC Rand. Fun loving. We got Saturday. Effer Day is in the house. Urban Nomad and Troublemaker, all gifted Membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. New Membos, welcome aboard. Hey, Tim Jake, our secret agent man is here. Happy anniversary to you, my man. My wife and I are celebrating our 30th anniversary today. We have a lot of love in our chat. I don't know if you guys know this, but we were talking about this. We got like 30 years, 40 years, 20 years. It's awesome. Super awesome. We're heading out to our favorite ribs and brisket joint after your show. Congrats on your pending nuptials. Thank you for that, Tim. I forgot to put the registry in. All right, I'll do it tomorrow. I promise. Tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. Thank you for that, Tim Jake. And man, I had ribs yesterday. We ordered some ribs. It was really good. So I love ribs. They're delicious. Off-label podcasts. Hey, how did you play the game telephone growing up? You know, by the end, someone's committed a felony. Sounds like a fun game. It's what happens, right? Well, because you're always like, a boy went down to the beach and busted a bubble or something. And then by the end, by the time you get to the end, it's like something about like boobs bouncing and breaking brains. And you're like, what? I think you're getting expelled now that you've said that. You know, kind of one of those things. I don't know. We didn't actually play that game. I think it's just one of those things that everybody says they played. Rob, what's up? I could use some prayers, you guys. Man, Rob, sorry to hear this. I got a right shoulder, back, and neck issues. Have a 3mm tear, not big in a tendon. I think it's where it connects to bone or something. That's in the shoulder. Rob, prayers up for a speedy recovery. Hopefully your body reconnects all the things that it needs to connect. And you're throwing the football in no time. Doan. Nice to have you, Doan. Says FBI General Counsel James Baker was founded to have communicated with Mother Jones prior to them breaking the Steele dossier. Really? Really? I did not know that. Yeah, James Baker. He also testified in the Sussman trial. And again, he forgot everything. Oh, can't remember anything. Thank you, Doan. Yeah, it's all just one big incestuous, disgusting family. Rob, hey, need to cancel every one of their passports. We don't need any of these people skipping. They might give info to Russia. We definitely don't want that. Thank you, Rob, for that one. Hey, Biltong in the house. You know where to go. BiltongUSA.com. Don't forget to use code Robert. That way you can save 10% off when you go over there. Premium Biltong. It is Biltong USA. High protein, keto friendly, no additives. U.S. beef. Authentic South African flavor. Good stuff in there. Get yours at BiltongUSA.com. Thanks, Biltong. Object Class Keter. When is Congress going to question the legality of Smith's appointment? After that, that would make everything else easy. Illegal appointment, definitely politically motivated, impersonating a superior officer, everybody who was involved. And you could say, from the moment that Trump filed the motion to disqualify Jack Smith for illegal money, too, remember, not just illegal appointments, but illegal apportionment of funds. They stole millions of dollars to prosecute this against President Trump and us, America, ultimately. So, yeah, I agree. Congress should come at Jack hard and the entire team. They should form committees on this and investigate it aggressively because it was a weaponization top to bottom. They went after at 1,500 Republicans on J6 and hundreds more in other ways. So, yeah, there should be a full accountability for that. And the money was also stolen out of our coffers. Norman Lee Smith Music. What's up, Norman Lee Smith? Check out his music on your favorite streaming platforms. Norman Lee Smith Music. Grateful Reggae is my signature tune. Peace and Liberties. Also says thanks for the update and the analysis. Man, keep on rocking over there, Norman Lee Smith Music. Grateful Reggae is my signature tune. Check that out. Look that up on Spotify or on YouTube Music. Diane K. Lacey. Can use toll records to get the call recordings from the NSA. Yeah. And like they didn't tell us about the 9th, Ted Cruz. So they're not telling us about any of those other things. That letter was kind of a distraction. It's like, oh no. But do you believe that they would disclose the full scope of their malfeasance? No, of course not. So thank you, Diane. 6 months as a membo, 2/3 of the way to a full baby. Philip B. What's up, Philip? Philip Butler's here says, the deep state would have loved Mike Pence as president. Totally. Yeah. I mean, it would just be like George Bush all over again. It's like, they'd love that. Bucky's is Rome. What's up? Hey, where can American citizens sue illegals and their enablers? Paul LePage, Maine shooting victim, sounds the alarm on NGOs diverting donations to migrant aid groups. Yeah. That's a great idea. Create a private cause of action at a federal level or a state level. FD man. Any immigration officer can make warrantless arrests of probable cause to believe in individuals in the U.S. illegally, and that person is likely to escape before a warrant can be obtained. 8 U.S. Code. There you go. And is likely to escape. 8 U.S. Code 1357A. Yeah, well, there you go. Thank you, FD man. That's what we're arguing about in that lawsuit. And they're saying that the settlement agreement makes those terms and the Trump administration is not complying with those terms because the warrants that they are signing in the field are not valid. They're ineffective and they need to be held to a higher standard. Chat with me. Isn't this agreement basically skipping Congress, making Biden king? Yeah, you could say that the terms of the agreement were settled outside of Congress, and Congress might have a different say on what those phrases mean and what is appropriate. And the court is just saying, I'll interpret the law according to my perspective. NY says, my idea to derail this silly settlement, Trump issue an executive order that eliminates Greater Chicago ICE office and just utilize other offices in neighboring states to make the sites holding areas of Indiana, Wisconsin. And then the judge, I think, would just, extend it over to them. But yeah, I mean, the argument, like Trump is saying, we're following the settlement. We're not violating the law. We're just saying that what we're finding on the field supports our arrest. And they're saying, no, it does not. So stop with your warrants. Stop with your administrative warrants. You're on the fields. They call it I-299s or whatever. And don't make these arrests happen. B.H. Williams, if one Congress cannot bind a future Congress, which in reality is a load of crap anyway, how can a president bind a future president with a consent decree outside the constitutional process like a treaty ratification? Yeah, it's a great question. And I would argue, if I was the Trump administration, that you're not bound by that from a constitutional perspective. Why would some settlement agreement between a predecessor and an illegal alien organization supersede your constitutional authority under the law, under the Constitution, to enforce the law? FD man, what gets me is these illegals went through a process that makes a business, but could not start a process to change status to legal in the U.S. What's up? FD man. And Rob, Judge Theodore Chang was assigned to the Bolton case. Watch all these cases get appointed to Obama-Biden judges because they will dismiss them with prejudice. FD man, shut down all immigration in sanctuary cities, shut down federal courts, and leave them to themselves. Rob, it needs to be appealed to SCOTUS immediately because illegals are committing a crime by being present in our country. Hey, FD man, that Johnson is an idiot. That is true. CJ, what's up? Welcome aboard, CJ. We'll see you in the after party in just a few minutes. And Chubby, I missed a lot of today's stream, so forgive me, but when in the neuro waiting room, I saw news reports of a U.S. Marshal shot while performing immigration stop. And you started talking about it right as I sent this. Good to see you, Chubby. Man, I don't know why you're in the neuro waiting room, but I hope everything's okay over there and you get accomplished what you need to get accomplished. FD man, Mayor Johnson is a commie terrorist. True. BH Williams. So when state and local officials are ganging together to oppose and obstruct federal government, isn't that a confederacy? Why aren't we treating these rebellious states the same way as the South after the Civil War? Well, yeah, that's kind of the subtext on this whole thing. Just like, if they're going to be identifying ICE agents and outing them for enforcing federal laws, what is that exactly? It feels like it's inching closer to a serious conflict. And now the people are shooting each other in LA. FD man, Judge Jeffrey, E. Texley, Rob, just a few more days before you lose your virginity. Finally, I know. 40-year-old virgin. I'm excited. I'm really excited about that. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, the wedding's going to be great, but losing my virginity is going to be awesome. NY Reno, in sanctuary cities, when elected, probably, I don't know. I have no idea. Hey, in sanctuary cities, when elected officials who organize online networks designed to obstruct ICE, that's a criminal enterprise, okay? The U.S. attorney should indict on RICO charges and authorize the financial freezes pre-trial like every other criminal enterprise. Please excuse my sense of humor from FD man. No, it's okay. I just can't read it on a live stream. This is a family show, Wife asked her husband, why are wedding rings put on the left hand? Husband answers, because marriage isn't right. Because marriage isn't right. So he's like begrudgingly wearing the band. Oh, that's great. Oh, gosh. How hilarious. All right. So that's a funny comment on the virginity one, too. Just great. All right. So let's say hello to our friends on X as soon as we can speak. Do we have some comments over here? We do. Neuro D, great to see you. What's up, James Pepper? We have Defender Stargate and more. What's up, Smokehouse, OTR Smokehouse? Hey, Rob. I have this feeling that Obama, the Great Divider, and the Smith-Mundt Act allowed this to happen to Trump with the dossier and all. Fundamentally changed the U.S. Hey, great show as always. Your thoughts. God bless you. So, like the Obama propaganda stuff? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that they would have just tried to rig it anyways with Smith-Mundt or not. Just call it a national security thing. But good comment. What's up, Defender? This makes me sick. Brennan and many others tried to get Trump impeached, put in prison, lied to Congress, but he gets a criminal referral for lying to Congress. WTF, says Defender. Hey, William, sorry if this is a dumb question, but that mind mapping software you use, it's called MindMeister.co. MindMeister, MindMeister.co. C-O. Good app. I'm still using it. Yeah. James Pepper, Rob, make sure your friends decorate the right car. How are we to know that there were two brown AMC Pacers in the same parking lot? It's a good question. Talking about the wedding cake. Also, this looks like it's a duck walking down the aisle instead of the bride. That's great. Great one. All right, Neuro D, thank you for sharing the Rumble link as well. And there's your boy. All right. Yeah. All right. So my friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for the great comments and the virginity quips. It's just perfect. So we're going to pause here for the day. We're going over to our after party. YouTube friends, hang tight. YouTube, I think now you're going to get a notice if you're a membo, and it will create a new feed, and then you can come over and join us auto magically, hopefully. Locals friends, hang tight, and we'll be back in just a minute. But it has been a great stream. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for navigating through all these stories together. We're going to pause here for the evening. Big shout outs and thanks to our amazing mods and meme smiths, our friends Donut, Mind me, John, K. Bean, Carrie B, our friends Neuro D, Dog Digger, and Janek, Jigum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, all modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly in the house. And my friends, very much appreciate you being here. Thanks for liking this video on your way out, if your fingers or your thumbs are working. And hopefully we see you in the after party. But that's going to be it for us on the day. We are coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we exposed corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together